No bourgeoisie, a young Che Guevara. Take it back, tell the proletariat, holla from a C. Salvador, Royal Cortez in the building. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara.
This is 5 on 20 News with Nick Marquez
and Joel Garcia. It's Tuesday, April 25th, and we're coming to you live from the Creative Tucson studio in downtown Tucson. First, let's talk local headlines.
Arizona residents largely oppose limits to the state's Medicaid program, according to over 400 submitted comments from the public. The Federal Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is asking for public comments for proposed changes to the Medicare system. The proposal would involve setting a 5-year cap for, quote, able-bodied adults, or a working requirement, or both. Over 90% of the submitted comments oppose the measure, many writing that able-bodied is not a well-defined term. Some took issue that this wouldn't cover those with mental illness. Others wrote that the 5-year limit would put rural areas of Arizona at risk. Last year, Access, the state's Medicaid system, proposed the same 5-year limits, but was rejected by the federal government. However, the state thinks that they might have a better chance with the current administration. About 5% of the comments supported the changes, but officials became suspicious when many of the supportive comments said things like, quote, it is very bad, not good, that people abuse Medicare, and it should be handled very accordingly, or else I'll send in the feds.
The town of Gilbert was named best place in Arizona to raise a family by Wallet Hub. The site ranked 65 cities in the state and used a variety of metrics to determine the best for families. Gilbert ranked second in 2 of the study's main categories, including education and health and safety and affordability. It also scored well in socioeconomic rank and family life and fun. Scottsdale came in second, scoring 5th in education, health and safety, and in the top 20 in the other 3 categories. Sadly, Tucson came in at 61 out of 65 cities, mostly due to coming in second to last in education, health, and safety, and coming in the bottom third in affordability and socioeconomics. Coming in lower than Tucson were Coolidge, Camp Verde, Douglas, and Eloy. And of course, once again, coming in dead last as Bestos Valley.
Arizona's voter registration fell by almost 10,000 people since January, according to the Secretary of State's office. But don't start screaming about the end of democracy yet. Officials say that this is normal after an election year, and that most people on the rolls probably moved or haven't participated in federal elections for a few cycles. Statewide, Republicans remain the largest number of voters, although Democrats are more populous in Pima County, with independents coming in second. All groups saw a decrease in the number of voters since last year. Governor Doug Ducey called the news a triumph of democracy and urged the trend to continue because it will, quote, speed things along.
With all the flagrant unconstitutional behavior we've seen as of late, it was good to see our state legislators stand up for what it means to be an American. That's right, the Arizona legislature passed a bill to block state and local governments from requiring background checks on private gun sales. Senate Bill 1122 will be forbidden from closing the so-called gun show loophole, which allows people to buy guns anonymously at gun shows. Critics charge that many of these guns end up in areas with tighter gun controls, such as Chicago and Los Angeles. But as we've been repeatedly told, gun owners are all good, law-abiding people. That goes double for those who buy guns with no paper trail, who consider themselves environmentalists for wanting to save trees. The House approved the measure with a largely party line vote. party line vote. The Senate passed the bill 16-14, with all Democrats and Republican Brophy McGee voting against it. McGee said he opposed the bill because the broad language could lead to unintended consequences and because Brophy McGee don't cut into broad language. Supporters of the bill said that it would protect citizens' right to be able to give a gift of personal property regardless of the item. However, parachute pants are still forbidden as gifts by state law. Republican Anthony Kern rejected concerns that the bill would lead to guns getting in the wrong hands. Kern said that there is no such thing as the wrong hands when it comes to guns. He said that, quote, "It is up to me as a responsible seller to make sure I know who the buyer is. It's called America, and it's called the Second America." Kern was, of course, referencing the part of the Second Amendment that reads, "An unregulated flea market gun dealer being necessary to the profits of a free state, the right of the people to keep in the trunk and sell arms shall not be infringed."
Pima County officially filed suit against the Southside Bakery La Cave's because of repeated health violations between December and March. The bakery failed 5 inspections in that time. Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Burgeon was asked to order a permanent injunction against La Cave's until it complies with the county's safety code. The bakery can be charged up to $1,000 per day if it fails to comply. The inspections came after La Cave's lost its permit because of missed payments. La Cave's could also be liable for misdemeanor charges for operating with a failed license, according to a demand letter sent by the county attorney on March 1st. The biggest violation was issued for the condition of the bakery's floor, which were found to be cracked and potholed in areas. The most recent inspection in March found that no work had been done on the floor since the last inspection in February. A display cooler was also not storing baked goods at acceptable temperatures. Owner Rudy Molina Jr. accepted the results and said that the county is doing what they have to do. He said that the floor doesn't pose a threat to patrons and that it's a structural issue. He also said that his bakery passed an inspection in June with the floor in the same condition. But Inspection Chief David Ludwig said that the floor does pose a risk because it prevents proper cleaning and allows bacteria to grow in the holes. Ludwig said that he'd rather not go to court, but they were given a pass in June and were told to improve the floor. In response, Molina went out and bought a rug.
University of Arizona researchers are getting over $2 million in federal grant money to study valley fever. The U of A's Valley Fever Center for Excellence will get $2.27 million to find out why some people get sick from inhaling a fungus unique to this area. The fungus gets blown around by the desert wind, especially in spring, between Tucson and Phoenix, where 2/3 of the cases of valley fever in the county occur. Valley fever is a lung disease caused by breathing in this fungus, which originates in the area's soil. In rare cases, valley fever can spread to the bones and can sometimes require intense treatment if it spreads further to the brain. The grant can be used to find out if a vaccine is possible to prevent the disease or a test to determine who is susceptible. Next year, the research team hopes to get a separate grant to study the impacts of Pac-Man fever, which has devastated American suburbs since 1981.
And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the program you're watching right now. Here at 5 on 20, we are undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We are going to give you the news as we see it. And we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves. So join us. Do it. Do it now. Email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing, a person we should interview, an upcoming event we should cover, or have any news tips for us, shoot an email to info@creativetucson.org. We are here for you, and we want to cover all stories from all points of view. So don't be strangers. Now, in national and international news.
The U.S. Embassy in London removed a listing on its website which promoted Mar-a-Lago, often dubbed as the Winter White House. The embassy was criticized because it was promoting a private club owned by the president that charges $2,000 per year for membership. Critics say that this is yet another example of a conflict of interest involving the president, who hasn't shied away from promoting his own business interest, while claiming not to benefit from these kinds of endorsements. The embassy web page linked to a detailed description of the club by Share America, which is part of the Bureau of International Information Programs. It gave details of the history of the club, which was given to the government in 1973 by heiress Marjorie Merriweather Post. However, neither Presidents Jimmy Carter or Richard Nixon used the club, and it was returned to private ownership in 1981 and purchased by Trump in 1985. Democratic Senator Ron Wyden asked why taxpayer dollars were used to promote the president's private club. Wyden provided a link to the page in, quote, all its kleptocratic glory. Norman Eisen, who served as special counsel for ethics and government under the Obama administration, said that the page broke federal regulations because it used officials to promote a private business. The page was taken down last night after the swirl of criticisms. A State Department official said that the intention was to promote where the president was hosting world leaders and said that they regret any misperceptions. This puts a wrinkle in the Trump administration's plan to set up an eBay-like auction site for high-level cabinet positions, which was to be called Trump Bids with a Z.
The U.S. is considering a laptop ban for passengers flying to the U.S. from a U.K. airport, according to The Guardian. Last month, the U.S. established a similar laptop ban for passengers coming from the Middle East, which raised criticisms about privacy rights and the effects on tourism in the U.S. According to The Guardian report, British officials understand that the U.S. wants to extend the ban for passengers coming from Europe. U.S. officials say that the ban is intended to protect Americans from terrorist attacks and claim that they received intel about terrorists using laptops to stage an attack in the country. However, no specific information was provided regarding these threats. The current ban affects passengers who fly from Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, Morocco, Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Passengers must stow their devices in checked-in baggage for flights leaving from these countries. Oddly, none of these countries are covered under the Muslim ban that targeted 6 Muslim nations. The move has been criticized by computer science experts. Nicholas Weaver, a researcher at the International Computer Science Institute, said that last month that if a terrorist wanted to trigger a bomb using a laptop, they would be able to do it just as easily with the computer in the cargo hold. Others say that the policy change is intended to benefit U.S. airline companies who are benefiting from the laptop ban because they are not beholden to the new rules. U.S. airlines have long competed with the fast-growing airlines from the Middle East, who receive generous subsidies from their host countries. The airlines have repeatedly lobbied the Trump administration to intervene with the system of subsidies. However, Middle Eastern airlines deny that they receive such benefits. Regardless, the Trump administration is planning to unveil a new rule that requires all Middle Eastern airlines to land in Sioux City, Iowa, and make passengers figure it out from there.
United States military officials are accusing Russia of supplying the Taliban with weapons in Afghanistan, according to the Associated Press. An official speaking anonymously said that Russia was providing machine guns and other medium-weight weapons to the militant group. The accusations came days after the Taliban launched an attack on an Afghan military site that killed over 100 people, the largest attack on the military since Afghan war began in 2001. When asked about the Russian connection, General John Nicholson would not refute the charges when he appeared at a press conference with U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis. Mattis said that the United States would, quote, engage with Russia diplomatically, but said that they would have to confront Russia because they are denying the sovereignty of other countries. He didn't seem to acknowledge the irony that conflict began because the United States violated Afghan sovereignty when they invaded. But what do you expect? Russia denies that it's providing support to the Taliban, who ruled Afghanistan until the United States invasion in 2001. Russia actually fought a war in Afghanistan in the late 1970s where they fought against what later became the Taliban, who were at the time being financially supported by the United States. Moscow said that their contact was limited to ensuring security in the country and was trying to get the Taliban to reconcile with the Afghan government. Russia has promoted easing sanctions on Taliban members who want to move closer towards being a legitimate political group. While the United States officially ended the war in Afghanistan in 2014, there remains a group of soldiers in the country to train Afghan military forces. Military officials have also called for an increase in the troop presence to battle the Taliban. Meanwhile, Russia is reportedly working on a new weapon to use in Afghanistan, which they call the Mamushka of all bombs.
Jordan has scrapped a law that protected rapists from punishment if they married their victims. After lobbying from women's rights groups, Muslim and Christian scholars, the Jordanian cabinet revoked Article 308 on Sunday. The law previously stated that a rapist could avoid jail time if they married their victim for at least 3 years. Supporters of the law said that it protected a victim's honor and reputation. Last year, the law was amended so that the loophole only extended to female victims aged 15 to 18 years old. According to the amended law, the attack would have to be considered consensual, which kind of contradicts the definition of an attack. Then in February, Jordan's Royal Committee suggested getting rid of the law completely, a decision that was welcomed by activists in the country. And it appears that the decision is spreading to other neighboring countries. In Lebanon, activists hung wedding dresses along Beirut's seafront in protest to their own law, which allows rapists to avoid jail time if they marry their victims. Lebanese activists are hoping that the country scraps the law in May and that it spreads to other countries who have similar laws, such as the Philippines, Iraq, and Tunisia. Already, Morocco, Egypt, and Ethiopia have closed similar loopholes. Surprisingly, Donald Trump has spoken out against the repeals, charging that they violate a husband's right to grope as they please.
Since the start of 2017, attacks on Jews and Jewish institutions have increased by 86%, according to the Anti-Defamation League. As part of its annual audit of anti-Semitic incidents, the civil rights organization named 541 acts of vandalism, violence, and harassment against American Jews this year. Last year, the group counted 1,266 anti-Semitic acts, which was already a 34% rise over 2017. 369 of these acts alone were counted in the last 2 months of 2016. They also linked 34 incidents directly to the election, including one incident of graffiti that read, "Kill the Jews, vote for Trump," and a situation in Florida where a man said that, quote, "Trump is going to finish what Hitler started." Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the group, said that he's most concerned that attacks have picked up so much in the past 5 months. Bomb threats against Jewish centers have also increased 127% so far this year, while acts of vandalism were up 36%. The ADL report also mentions how United States campuses have become a hotbed of anti-Semitism in the country, noting a 45% increase in anti-Semitic acts occurring at American college campuses. These include racist flyers that were posted on campuses that promote white identity. The flyers focus on alleged dangers facing the white race, including demographic changes and whites pushing back against white guilt. Defenders of these attacks say that they're simply creating safe spaces for those stuck in 1955.
A Filipino lawyer has formally accused President Rodrigo Duterte of crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court. Jude Sabio, the attorney, is representing an admitted assassin who testified that Duterte ordered killings back when he was mayor of Davao City. For years, human rights groups have claimed that Duterte ran death squads, a charge that the president has at times admitted, but also has denied. Duterte came to international attention soon after he became president and urged violence towards drug dealers and users in the country. Many in the Philippines welcomed his tactics because of the extreme drug abuse in the country, mostly involving shabu, their version of crystal meth. The International Criminal Court confirmed that they received the report on Duterte and would analyze it. ICC prosecutor Fatu Bensouda said that he was deeply concerned about the killings and that public officials appeared to support Duterte's behavior. However, the ICC has received thousands of complaints since 2002, with most not leading to a formal investigation. Duterte says that the complaints are only intended to embarrass him and create, quote, negative news at the same time that he is hosting Asian leaders at a summit. Duterte took to Twitter yesterday and said that, quote, the failing Manila Times, which has been calling me a killer for years, got caught in a big lie with the size of my rallies. Change libel laws?
The White House appears to be backing off from a potential government shutdown if the big, beautiful border wall isn't funded. For the past week, Trump has stubbornly stuck to the idea that he would not sign a spending bill if the wall funds were not included. However, yesterday, some top aides started to waver on whether they would go through with the threats. One official told CNN that, quote, even some funding for border security could satisfy the president at this point. The same official said that, quote, politics is the art of compromise, which would make Donald Trump the Marcel Duchamp of politics. But Attorney General Jeff Sessions insisted on ABC's This Week that the border wall funding would be part of the spending bill. Sessions said that, quote, I can't imagine the Democrats would shut down the government over an objection to building a down payment on a wall that ends lawlessness. But this is also the guy who said that he can't imagine Hawaii as a state, so you could say his imagination is a bit lacking. Homeland Security Chief John Kelly also said that Trump would insist on funding, while Budget Director Mick Mulvaney said eloquently, we don't know yet. Why does every decision of Trump's feel like it's part of a game show that no one really wants to watch? But Newt Gingrich, always a bastion of wisdom, said that Trump administration is just being cautious because, quote, they're feeling their way forward. But Trump rejected Gingrich's theory, claiming that he always feels this way on the backside. This was Joel Garcia
And Nick Marquez for 5 on 20 News. Next up, Adelante Tucson.
Royal Cortez in the building. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. No bourgeoisie, a young Che Guevara. Take it back, tell the proletariat, holla. From a land where we go hard to the last breath. Complex dialectic of class stressing my intellect, but I intercept it with intelligent weapons. Magnetic waves connect them with the brain. Culminate what they repudiate, release the rage of the people. So cruel how they treat it, but he's so smooth on the flow. How he creeping, spit some real shit to the crowd, but they left me leaning. Said I mean it what I say. Boy, I'm rapping from the grave. Baby mom rather see a dog locked in his cage, locked in his cage. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. But I know that's how the system play. Break the family unit, drive us insane. Who to blame? The men who graduate and propagate the status quo. Building world-class jails but shitty schools where the young people roam. All alone in my zone, entering other dimensions, intergalactic nexus, intransigent essence, bouncing to algorithms interpreted by socialist thinkers. He rolling with leaders, he know they gon' keep up, stand up for rights of indigenous people. Hip-hop is lethal, necessary evil, lethal, you know that's my e-ho, so he flow like me though. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara. Fight back, tell the proletariat, holla. Marquez in the building.
So good evening and welcome again to Adelante Tucson, Tucson's new platform for unapologetic political analysis. I am your host, Edward Cott.
And I'm your co-host, Joel Garcia. All right, so today we have a very special show. We will first be discussing Proposition 101, which is the only initiative on the ballot for the upcoming special May elections here in the city of Tucson. To talk with us about what this proposition means for working and poor people, we are joined here today by Sarah Roberts from Tucson, showing up for racial justice, or Surge Tucson chapter. Hello, Sarah, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am, you're very welcome.
So I guess first we can start out telling us a little bit about Surge, which is the organization you're representing here today.
Yes, I'm with Showing Up for Racial Justice Tucson, and this is an affiliate of a national organization, Showing Up for Racial Justice. And so our focus is on outreach and education and organizing white people across classes to end racial injustice and to take a stand for ending white supremacy.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay, and what is Proposition 101, and when are the elections for Proposition 101?
Yes, Proposition 101 is on the ballot, and the ballots will be mailed out tomorrow, so the election is coming up really soon. May 16th is the deadline for getting your ballot in.
Okay.
This proposition is a tax. It's a flat tax of a 0.5% sales tax, and everyone will be paying the same rate, no matter how poor you are or how much you make, you'll be paying the same rate. So it's really very disproportionately going to affect poor people. And so the tax will be going towards police, fire, and improvement to roads.
Okay. So I've heard it's called also an emergency election, as they're calling it. It's a mail-in ballot only. What does that mean, and why an emergency? Why is it the only proposition on the ballot?
I think we haven't learned too much about why this has come about. I think it's kind of an open question, and maybe we should be looking into this a little bit more, because perhaps they wanted to get this through before a lot of opposition built up, before people learned a lot about what was really going on with this ballot proposition.
Definitely.
All right, so a sales tax is a flat tax that disproportionately affects poor working class families. What does this mean to vulnerable communities here in Tucson?
Right, so if this tax were to be passed, this would give supplies, equipment, new vehicles, and even a new substation to the police. So the way this would affect people of color communities and poor people is that they are already very highly targeted. They would be more targeted by having more investment in the police. And so I really see it as really that way they would be affected very much more than anyone else in our community.
Definitely. I mean, here in the state of Arizona, right, SB 1070 is still in place. So here locally, that reflects in police and border patrol collaboration constantly. So I guess a new substation in South Tucson, right? That means more policing, like you were saying, affecting immigrant families, right? Prolonged stops, ICE involvement, more raids. So it would definitely affect our most immigrant communities here in town.
Exactly. Yes, it would really. I think the amount of funding going towards the police, increasing any of their resources, is really going to mean that people of color communities are going to be more targeted. Poor people are going to be more targeted.
Definitely.
And also, it doesn't give any funding to public transportation. So what we would really like to see is more funding for public transportation, which really would help really our people of color communities, as well as immigrant communities, as well as poor communities. So that's where we would like to see the funds focused on.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You want to add anything to that?
No, not at all. That was a great thing. Thank you for that.
Well, I would say, you mentioned it's a half a cent tax increase, is that correct, for the next 5 years?
That's right.
And what percentage of that is it going to be directed to police and
So 30% of that would go to the police, and about 40% would go to road improvements. So what we're seeing is that really this investment in police is not what we as SURGE work in as allies
Definitely.
and alongside and in support of communities of color. And so one way we can do that is that we can support their needs, and the needs that we see coming out of those communities being asked for in those communities are support for public transit, support for better health care, support for education, support for everything that immigrant communities are in need of, and less focus on police and less focus on
Right.
like roads that don't provide
Yeah.
opportunities for public transit.
Criminalization, that's basically
Criminalization.
where it's going after. Yeah, and I would say I would like to see the city raising funds in another way that's not in the burden, on the backs of working class poor people. For example, right, increasing tax on all these corporations that are here in town. So I mean, I know there's definitely more ways where they can obtain funds for social investment like roads, but that doesn't, right, like you're saying, continue increasing funding for police, which are criminalizing communities and vulnerable communities. So Sarah, please tell us, how can folks get involved on what SURGE is doing, information on the campaign, information on Proposition 101?
So you can go to the SURGE Facebook page and you can see how to get involved with SURGE, and also you can see that we can go out on what we're going to be doing some canvassing in our communities this weekend and next weekend to get the word out about Prop 101. Thank you.
Great.
Perfect. Well, then we want to we want to thank Sarah Roberts for joining us today. And remember, folks, to vote no on Proposition 101 on the next upcoming elections. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
So, and for the second part of today's program, we're going to be discussing May Day events here in town that are being organized here in the city of Tucson for the May 1st International Workers' Day events. Nevertheless, before getting into the details of the local march and rally, let us briefly discuss the history behind May Day and its unquestionable relevance in our current political climate today. The origins of May Day are in the class struggle right here in the U.S. In 1886 arose a powerful working movement that was fighting for the 8-hour workday. A call was issued for a general strike, and in Chicago, many responded. On May 4th, a clash between demonstrators and police took place at Haymarket Square. A bomb went off, killing 7 police officers and wounding many. This was used as a pretext to hang 4 revolutionary labor leaders. In subsequent years, the traditions of workers standing up on May Day to advance the cause of the working class was born. In recent decades, here in the U.S., we have seen the immigrant rights movement join the labor movement in celebrating International Workers' Day. This development has brought forward the demands of justice and equality for immigrant workers, students, and families. Back in 2006, the immigrants' rights marches, largely led by Mexicans and Chicanos, surged into the streets and reminded the world that International Workers' Day originated in Chicago. Over 2 million people participated in mega marches in nearly every city, demanding legalization for all and the shaking of the political establishment in this country.
In February of this year, many cities with Mexican, Central American, and other immigrants held a Day Without Immigrants rallies and marches, where some schools had to declare a snow day because so few students were present. This May Day, we will see a big turnout as immigrants stand up and fight back. Demands will range from stopping the Muslim travel ban and opposing Trump's border wall, to stopping deportations and demanding legalization. May Day has become an opportunity for all oppressed peoples and nationalities, including African Americans, Chicanos, and Native Americans, as well as workers and poor people, to express solidarity with one another and shared resolve in the fight for self-determination and full equality. In many countries, we will see angry protests against government cutbacks to social services, education, healthcare, and housing. Many of the cutbacks in other countries are imposed by the United States through International Monetary Fund or World Bank. These entities demand deep spending cuts to social programs, as well as the purchase of United States weapons. If countries don't accept the United States loans or are late to pay, then the United States military will show up to enforce the deal. Workers and oppressed peoples of the world have a common enemy in Wall Street. At the core of the capitalist system lay exploitation of many for the benefit of the few, and America's rulers have built an empire of injustice that spans the globe. Those who are fighting back in the Philippines, the Middle East, Latin America, or anywhere else deserve our full support. It is in the billionaire class, which includes the rich bankers and their wealthy political lackeys like Trump, where we find that we in the United States have the same enemy as people around the world. On May Day, international solidarity must also be front and center.
All right, well, with that, so here with us today is our second guest, Lucas Rodriguez. How's it going, Lucas?
Welcome.
From the local breakdance collective Barrio Minds and also from the May Day Coalition. So Lucas is going to speak to us a little bit about the march and rally that's happening here in Tucson on May 1st. So thank you for being with us here, Lucas.
Yeah,
how you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to see you guys.
Likewise.
Awesome. So the first question off the bat is maybe a little bit about yourself, a little background.
Cool. So my name's Lucas. If you're from Tucson, you probably know my face. You've seen me running around passing out flyers.
Yes.
I got a little girl named Emma, so I'm a single dad. I break dance with Barrio Minds. My actual crew is the Wild Bunch, who I go out and battle with, but Barrio Minds is a collective of people who live in the barrio for, I didn't even know, forever. They've lived here forever, and now we just decided to get together and do that. And
Nice.
yeah, right now I'm going to school for theater and education. Two of the
Awesome.
things that are, Trump wants to cut. So
Right.
advocating heavily for theater and education.
Absolutely.
And organizing a lot right now.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right, so what is the May Day Coalition?
So the May Day Coalition, we are a team of local activists. We come from literally all walks of life here in Tucson. Lupe, LULAC. I came from Arizona Healthy Working Families with you.
That's right.
We're a coalition of just a bunch of people who have been actively working on different things, who I feel every year come together to put together this May Day, this International Workers' Day, to recognize, workers, and specifically in Tucson, immigrants.
That's
Because
right.
we're,
That's right.
We're an immigrant state.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, we're 60 miles away from the border.
Yeah.
We're basically a border town,
That's
so
right.
it's
Yeah.
huge. The immigration issue
Oh, yeah.
here in the city is huge. Can you tell us a little bit about the demands being put forward by the May 1st Coalition?
Oh, yeah.
And where it's happening?
Yeah, so first off, the May Day Coalition will start at the El Casino Ballroom at 8:30. We'll have a little bit of entertainment. We'll have a guest speaker there. We'll have some break dancing to wake you up.
Nice.
And then at 9:30, we'll go on a march. We'll have the map there. I'm not really too sure. I think it's down Stone and Broadway, and we'll walk towards Armory Park, which is 437 East 26th Street. And we'll be there until about 1 o'clock. Some of the demands we're bringing are, a living wage. And Prop 206 in Arizona helped with it a little bit, but it's just a Band-Aid on it. So a living wage is a human right is what we're demanding. Unions, not deportations. We're demanding we invest in education and stop criminalizing people.
Right.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? We need to get the money out of that system. No Muslim ban. Come on.
That's
no
right.
Muslim ban.
That's right.
No border walls. Like, really?
Right.
What did we do for the last 8 years? You know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes.
Like, we just took a huge step back. There's no way we can do this. There's no money for it, first of all. Women's rights.
Yes.
Super important. How the hell are they still getting paid 76 cents to the dollar?
That's
you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
That's right.
And on the health side also, one of the first things Trump did when he came in was attacking women's reproductive rights and these sort of issues.
If you're not a woman, you have no right to say what
That's
a woman
right.
should do with her body.
Absolutely.
Let's put it
That's
that way.
Absolutely.
And just recently, with a lot of the stuff that's been happening, we're also going to start advocating for no war in the Middle East.
Absolutely.
A lot of that.
Absolutely. And just another thing that Trump is expanding on, right? Just continuing that war machine and that military-industrial complex.
Right. Yep.
All right, so
ask a question?
Lucas, one quick question. So why would you say that it's important to celebrate this holiday?
Well, it's definitely important to celebrate. More or less, we need to keep it recognized. We need to keep it in the midst of everybody, because we have to remember, Arizona was Mexico.
That's right.
Before the U.S. came
That's right.
and manipulated the media into, brainwashing people that the Mexicans were bad and banned into, this was our land first.
Yeah.
And so we have to stand up for ourselves. We cannot feel like outsiders in our own land. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? So we have to stand up. Yeah, like I said, it goes all the way back to the 1800s, and we're still fighting these things today.
Right.
Tooth and nail. Like, I don't get how discrimination is still a thing. Like, I do understand how it's still a thing, and this is exactly why we need to keep bringing it up.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so understanding, I guess, is a good point that you're bringing up. All these different issues, all these different struggles, right? Whether it's at our jobs with like cutbacks, no protection, right? No labor unions.
Yep.
Whether it's for immigrant families being criminalized, being persecuted, being incarcerated and deported, you know, right? Whether it's African Americans getting
Right.
shot by immune cops, right? Who are immune to the law. All these different issues sort of, merge at a May 1st
Right.
in demanding human rights, equality for all, and
Yeah,
these type
and we
of issues.
welcome everybody, and like those are a lot of the things that people are are affected directly by. But then we got to remember those are the people who are still working the 8 hours, the 8-hour days, 5 days a week. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. They think it's not affecting them. It's affecting you, just not yet.
That's right.
And so we all have to stick together in this coalition.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, just
No. All right. Well, with that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Lucas, for coming to the show,
Thanks a
telling
lot.
us about May Day, Monday, May 1st, International Workers' Day at 8:30 p.m. Casino Ballroom. 8:30 a.m. I'm sorry, 8:30 a.m. No work, no school, no shopping. Everybody go out to the streets and demand social rights and equality for all. Well, I think that's about it for us today, right?
Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank you for joining us, Tucson. Have a good day.
On the floor, how he creep and spit some real shit to the crowd. But they left me leaning, said I mean it what I say. Boy, I'm rapping from the grave. Baby mom rather see your dog locked in this cage, locked in this cage. No bourgeoisie, young Che Guevara, Che Guevara, Che Guevara. No bourgeoisie,